Hello guys, welcome back to The Crew 2. The Summit, we're very often playing it, and I've noticed that recently in videos on my YouTube channel as well as on other YouTube channels, a lot of these questions come back about Affix and what do you use and that kind of stuff, so I thought I'd quickly go over it in this video. Seems to be that there were some summer sales at Steam and other online shops and so, and there are quite some new players in there, and they don't know exactly what's going on and so on. So that's what we're gonna do, quickly go over this. Well, it will take a while because we have all these different disciplines. When you start the game, yeah, it's about green parts, and then you get some blue parts, and then you get some purple parts. It's all irrelevant. The only thing that matters is yellow parts. That is for sure something you need. You need yellow parts if you want to participate in something like the Summit. Yellow parts matter a lot because not only do they have 2 affix bonuses, but they also have a set bonus which you can make active if you have all the same parts. Other than that, there are 5 of these set bonuses: Nitrochemist, Scorebreaker, Fame Magnet, Loot Digger, and Life Reward Sniffer. Those 5 sets, do you want them in every discipline? That is up to you. What you mainly need for Summit purposes is Nitrochemist and Scorebreaker, and then a combination of those things to go along with it. Let's go. My voice comes only from one side. Let me double check that. It seems fine over here though, so I'm not sure. Other than that, this mailbox, I know there are quite some people out there who have a bunch of parts in here. I have never parts in here, as you can see. We were talking about the yellow parts. And then we have to also talk quickly about PvP, because yeah, it's a pretty good way to get yellow parts. You can do the events on Ace mode, and that also will work fine. Not a problem with that. But then you have to do it in Ace mode, and you're dealing with Ace AI and so on. Another way to get yellow parts is PvP. If you go in here, you already see it. They added something here now, which is a weekly reward. You have to play 5 PvP events to earn your weekly reward, and the weekly reward are a bunch of yellow parts. And depending on the vehicle that you are in, you will get the yellow parts for that vehicle. So if you want to upgrade your air race plane, first go out of the headquarters, switch into a plane, come back into the headquarters and collect your reward if you have done 5 PvP events. For the race itself, if you go to a race lobby, it's no collisions, so you can race there. If you make it into the top 3 regularly, you get all kind of yellow parts. Key bindings for keyboard, I will talk about that in a second as well. Because as I mentioned, we're gonna go over the affixes in this video, because I know that there are quite some people out there who apparently still don't know how and what and first of all, you have the pilot menu. If you go in there in the icon points, depending on the icon that you are, you're gonna get some points. And you can spend those points in this thing here. 3 different columns: comfort, vehicle, and gameplay. The more points you can spend, the higher icon you are. It's pretty simple. Once you reach level 675, you can put 25 points on all of these things here in these 2 columns, and also on all of these 25 points here on the left column. That's icon 675. After that, you get every 3 levels, you get 1 point for the left column. You can keep adding points on these first 4 here. I put all my points on reach, which gives me more money to begin with in whatever it is that I do. Skill test, PvP, campaign event, summit event. I get 18.1% more money from it just by putting all my remaining parts on the rich. If you want to level up faster, you can put it on popular. If you want some better loot, you can put it on gold finder and lucky. Those are your options. I don't care for the level. I have reached icon 1000 and that also means if we go back into that pilot menu, but this time we check the timeline line. Also here you can find yellow parts. You go through the sideline as a new player. You get every 100 levels you get a car or something like that, and eventually you reach level 600, you get the LaFerrari, and from level 600 on you get like purple, yellow, purple, yellow, purple, yellow every 10 levels. So also here you can find yellow parts. Just as with the PvP weekly reward, whatever vehicle you are in, that's where you will get the part for. So if you want the yellow part on your boat and you're still upgrading your boat, put yourself in a boat, come here to the timeline and collect this part, and it will be a yellow part. I've collected all of them already. With the December update, I think it was, they added some more cars on the timeline. At level 700 you get the Acura now. 850 is the Hub 1 monster truck, and then eventually at icon 1000 you get the Chiron Carbon edition. At this moment in time there are no other vehicles on the timeline. That might change after a while if they notice that the majority of the players are higher than icon 1000. They might add some new vehicles at I don't know, icon 1500, icon 2000. We will see if they do that, and when they do that we will see. Other than that it just goes on like that. Now as Gangster over there already mentioned, can you show the keyboard bindings and so on? That is also something that matters, of course. I play on a keyboard. I play most of the races in automatic gearbox. I only switch to manual for drift and for drag in general. Occasionally I mess about with manual gears sometimes, but not really in a competitive format as PvP or Summit, because yeah, I'm not used to driving with manual. So that's always gonna give me slower times, as it is. So what matters other than that for the Summit is of course the Pro settings, but yeah, that comes down to tuning of your vehicle. I'm not so good at it as it is, so just mess about a bit with it. The top settings for my keyboard I always have the same: 10, 9, 10, 10. The only reason I don't have the ABS on 10 is because then sometimes it's too powerful and then the wheels lock up. So you put it on 9 or on 8 or something. Some people like to drive without the stability protection, so they put the ASP on the other side, or without traction control. It's all up to you. For the keyboard I find it best that you put it as high as possible. So these are my global settings for street race in this case. So you don't have to change those. The specific settings on the other hand you have to change depending on the vehicle. I usually start with stancing the car, in other words put the camber as low as possible on 0, 0. The anti-roll bars, usually I start with like 8 on the front and 10 on the rear, and then if it's too stiff, then or it's too understeering or something, then you bring it down a bit, which I sort of did for this Hurricane. Other vehicles you will still see my more or less my standard setup with 8 on the front and 10 on the rear. The error distribution I usually put as much as possible to the rear. In this case, yeah, I put it like here, and the differential distribution is something you will only find on a 4-wheel drive car. That is, if the devs do not forget it. Like for instance with the recent Summit rewards, the Hurricane Performante as well as the Evo 10 Black Knight edition, both of them are 4-wheel drive, but the devs forgot to put the differential distribution slider in the game, which makes, especially in the Black Knight edition, result in some strange behavior sometimes, because we cannot change this thing, because it's not visible. I'm assuming that one of the upcoming patches they will change that. Gearbox is pretty simple. If it's a track with long straight, you probably want to put this on 10. if it has more twisty straights, usually we go for like 8 or 10 or so, or 9. It depends a bit from car to car. In general, I put it on 9, but if the track has long straights, then you probably have to go to 10. As much grip as possible on the tires. The brake power also usually max it out. And the brake balance is pretty much and pretty simple as well. Play around with your slider till you get the lowest number. I have the brake distance here now at 23 meters. If I put it to the left, it's going red. If I put it to the right, it's going red. So this is the lowest number that I could find, which is 23.12. That's why that slider is there. If you can find a lower number somewhere else, then you put the slider there. Suspension is sort of the only setting which I'm still trying to figure out. If it's rally rate, yeah, then you put it way more to the right, those 4 settings over here, because you want to make it a bit stiffer. But if it's a track car or so, I usually put it very low. But I have noticed that some people put like the front where it is now, and then these 2 middle ones here, rebound in the front and the compression on the rear, they put it like all the way to the right, always. Maybe that works. On some cars it works for me as well. I also have setups like that. So that's sort of the pro settings that I go by. I start with 0, 0 here and 8, 10 over here, and then change if necessary. And the arrow as much as possible to the rear. That's sort of what I do, but yep, as I said, I'm not really a tuner as it is, so I just try to get the car as stable as possible and drive with that thing. That is sort of for the pro settings. I will leave you a link in the description, a Google document made by Chris Fly, which you can find in my trailer as well, in the channel trailer on YouTube. It sort of explains what all these sliders do. Maybe that makes more sense to you to get out of it. Controls, seeing I play on a keyboard, that means that steering linearity and dead zone and all that kind of stuff is grayed out. I cannot change it. So I have to deal with the default settings. That is already a big problem. Compared to, for instance, somebody on a gamepad or a controller, they can change these things, which already might also change the pro settings, because they can get more steering or sharper steering from these sliders probably, so they don't have to maybe put the camber that low or something like that. That's all possible. We cannot change anything here if you play on a keyboard. The only thing you can change is the gearbox, which I occasionally do for drift and drag. Other than that, I have it in automatic. Works the best for me as it is. Key mapping somebody else. That is basically it's QW if you play on a QWERTY keyboard, but I'm in Belgium. I play on an AZERTY keyboard. So for me the acceleration is Z, brake is S. That is Q and W if you have a QWERTY keyboard. Steering I do with the arrows on my keyboard. The D and the F are to lean forward or to trim if in case you're in the boat. This is a ground vehicle, of course. Handbrake, something I never use. I have it on X. And the gear up and gear down, I also use the arrows. That's sort of how I drive on a ground vehicle. Airplane, sort of the same. QW if you're on a QWERTY keyboard. Steering, the same. Pitch down and pitch up is sort of the same as my lean forward or trim, which I use D and F. We don't have gears on a plane, so I could use these same keys that I use for gear up, gear down, being the arrow up and down. I use those to use the plane rudder. So sort of extra steering. Makes sense that I have it all on the arrows, left and right, and also the rudder. We don't have a handbrake in the plane, so I use the same button for the extreme mode, which is X. Smoke, yeah, I have mapped it on a key on my keyboard, which I never use, which is the Z on a QWERTY keyboard, the W on an AZERTY keyboard. And the landing gear I have on the spacebar. The landing gear, some planes have a fixed landing gear, like the Harmon rocket. Yeah, then you don't need to use it. But other planes, like the Spitfire, you can use the landing gear, and then you can, instead of letting it go automatically, you can do it yourself, and then it has less weight. If the landing gear is out, it has more weight, and the plane goes slower. So if you can put the landing gear in the plane faster, then it can do automatically then you might get some faster times. That's why we sometimes use the landing gear in case we use a Spitfire or so. And the boat is more or less the same. Acceleration Z and S, Q and W if you have a QWERTY keyboard. Turning with the arrows, and the trim D and F. Always use these same keys. Other than that, general controls. I just use the camera to change the camera. C obviously. Back on track is R. What else do we use? Mostly nitrous is E. Next to my throttle. The horn is something, yeah, that's the Q on a QWERTY keyboard, but I'd never use that. And then I have mapped the fast FAF. I have mapped on 1, 2 and 3 on my numpad. That is something you can do on a keyboard. We don't have to use the fast FAF menu in such a way that it opens and that it selects those 3 vehicles. No, we can just say 1, 2 or 3. 1 is a car, 2 is a plane, and 3 is a boat. So we can use 3 different keys. So we don't have to bring up the fast FAF menu and then go left, right or up to select whatever vehicle you want. We just immediately give the command, give me a car or give me an airplane or give me a boat. That's what you can do with the keyboard. That's compared to controller, which you cannot do that. They do not have enough buttons. Probably the same on a wheel. That is that. Yeah, the rest is first person control. You can double map because those are all kind of keys that you can double use because you're not in a vehicle when you're walking around anyway, so you can put here whatever you want here. Other than that, yeah, that sort of is all that I use, I think. The rest I have mapped here because otherwise you get all kind of conflicts. The R3, for instance, doesn't mean anything to a keyboard player, but the R3 is something you need to map. For instance, that is the fast FAF menu. If you want to do a fast FAF menu and then go up and down, that is also possible, but then you need to map it, and that is the R3. No meaning at all for a keyboard, but this whole menu is made up for control players. So instead of R3, they should put here like fast FAF menu or something like that. Something I had to ask on the controller players what it actually was, that R3, what it actually did for them by default, and then we realized that it was the fast FAF menu. And the F keys is basically for the chat box. Now, talking about the chat box, if you put F3, normally that thing is on the left. Also something that a lot of people do not know. If you click on that envelope, you can move that thing wherever you want to have that. Do you want it over here? Do you want it here? There? You can move it as much as you want. On the left, if you click on the envelope there, if you click on the right here and you hold your key, you can expand that to wherever it is that you want to have it. I usually put it over there. The reason I put it over there is pretty simple. I'm very often on Discord. And then I have on the left here the players that are in my channel or something. An overlay from Discord. So that's why I put the chat box on the right side. That is it for keyboards, I think. For the mapping and for the pro settings, yep, that is up to you, the tuning. Now we come to the sets itself. Yellow part is what you need. I mentioned before. Yeah. Do you need all of these sets? No, not really, but we have them anyway because there were some events where there was better loot in the live boxes, and so there already have been three of those. Last year with Christmas, this year with Easter, and then in June to celebrate 1 year of the crew. They sort of did a celebration anniversary week thing, and then also there we could find better loot in the boxes. So people were flying around, found all kind of loot, and then the result of that is that many have different sets. This, for instance, is a Fame magnet set. That means that horseshoe thing here, but you need to have 7 of them. There is no thing if you have like 3 or 4. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. You need 7. If you have all 7 of them, then the actual set bonus, which is that thing over here, then it becomes active. It will not be active if you only have 4 or 5 or 6 of these parts on it. You need to have 7 of these things on it. Otherwise it does not happen. Next to that, this is probably the perfect part, which is a Fame magnet set with extra popular on it. It increases the followers by a certain percentage, and the Fame magnet set doubles those followers. So you gain some followers by driving around or doing some stunts with a plane or whatever while you're in free roam. You get followers. This popular thing increases the percentage. Fey magnet doubles the whole combination of points, in this case for followers to level up. And money is always good, so rich, you put rich on this here as well. So you gain followers, you gain some money just by driving around doing some stuff. That's why you could use the Fey magnet set. Other than that, especially once you are Icon 1000, you have all the cars from the timeline. The Fey magnet set is as useless as it can be. But yeah, there are some. I think we even we got a perfect set on one of the other disciplines. We will have a look at that later. For racing itself, for time attacks and so, yeah, only one thing you need, and that is more or less this thing. This is a Nitro Chemist with pure and extra pump. The pure gives you more nitro power, and the extra pump refills the nitro power faster. In this case by 10%, because I have it maxed out. Pure 8, extra pump 10 on all 7 of these parts. Again, these 7 parts, because you need 7 of those Nitro Chemists to make it active. And that sort of gives you a double bar of boost. And then all maxed out, and then it have pure 66%, extra pump 75%. It will come back a few times, because in general this is like the general race setup. But not always. If you take a bike, for instance, you don't really need that much refill. You don't really need that much extra pump, because there you have the bender. And the bender is a lean bonus. So if you lean forward, it will give you a certain percentage more. And what it basically does is, if you have like a high speed and you lean forward, what the bender does, if you have it maxed out like I have it here now, it will maintain that high speed, which also means that you don't have to use that much nitro, and that also means that you don't need that much extra pump. In this case I do have extra pump next to the bender here in this particular part, but that's only be 1 or so. Most of these parts I have pure and bender, like this one here, pure 8%, bender 8%. And I have 5 of those, I think, and I put like 2 extra pumps on it to have a little bit of nitro refill. So it's bender 66%, extra pump 25, and then 50 pure. That will do. That is like more or less a pretty good set for a bike. And if you once you reach the top speed, especially on the long straight, you just lean forward and it will maintain that speed. So you don't have to constantly boost for more nitro. No. You can just lean forward, it will keep the speed, and meanwhile the thing has time to refill your boost as it is. Seeing you're not using any, it can refill. But at certain tracks or something in the summit, it was not refilling fast enough, and that's why I put 2 of these extra parts on, extra pump on it, and 5 nitros next to the bender on all 7 parts. The bender, as you can see, is that helmet thing. There's no point on putting bender on a car because it will not do anything. So only for bikes. So that's another Nitro Chemist set that you can combine. Do we now have another one? Yes, we do. Which is more or less this one here. This symbol over here, that means muddy. And the muddy decreases the off-road bumps and deceleration by 8%. To put it in short, that doesn't make you lose speed when you are off-road. Although this is a street race vehicle, if you just take this thing out and you go drive around on a dirt road, it will do 175, 180 kilometers an hour, and that's the maximum speed. And it will not go faster. If you max this thing out with muddy, it will not have that speed limitation, and it will just go 280 or 300 kilometers an hour. That is why we use the muddy. This can be used, for instance, in an off-road escape. Sometimes the rally raid vehicles are not the fastest. You can either go for a street race bike. For instance, this Suzuki is a pretty good one to use with muddy. And then next to the muddy, same story, you put some pure on it, you put some extra pump on it, some frenetic. I have a bit of a combination on this one here, extra pump 35, frenetic 16, and pure 26, so a bit of combinations. A couple of extra pumps, a couple of frenetics, and some pures on it as well. But on all 7 I have muddy to max it out, which is 66%. And then you don't lose speed in an off-road. So very often, if there's an off-road slalom or something in the summit, you have to take a look into a few options. You take a rally raid bike, you take a rally raid car, you check the street race bike with muddy to see if it's not faster, and you could also do it with a hypercar when we come to later. So that is sort of the 3 nitro chemist sets that I have. So a normal one for racing with pure and extra pump, and then one with bender for the bikes, and then with one with muddy for off-road stuff. Next to that, we had the frame magnet, already looked at it. Then you have the sniffer set. Here we have a sniffer set, also here again coming back 7 different parts, but they all have this sniffer thing here. And that first one is basically the best you can do. If you're gonna look out there for nitro or whatever parts, and you wanna look in those live reward boxes that you find out there on the map, you cruise around with this thing. Live reward sniffer, sensor and collector. The sensor increases the radar, 10% is the maximum, so I have it maxed out. The collector increases the live reward frequency. So to put it in short, you will have boxes appear more often due to the collector, and you will detect them from a wider range due to the sensor. And the live reward sniffer multiply the live reward density by 2. So you can find a lot of more boxes if you have this complete set on it. I just have one of these parts on it. I don't think I have some sensor on this one here, but that's about it. This is not the perfect set yet. Also, it doesn't matter that much. I have a better set, for instance, on a plane, because it goes faster to fly around from box to box than actually drive around with a car. But yeah, due to all of those yellow parts that we found in those boxes, I have the 5 different sets on most of these vehicles here. So what else do we need? Obviously is a score breaker set. In this case I put it on a bike. You can put on whatever you want as long as you have skilled 75%. That is something that you definitely need. You need a score breaker set and the skilled 10%. Now how does the score breaker set? You sort of have a base score. When you do a slalom or something, or an aerobatics event or whatever, you have a base score. Let's say you score 1,000 points. What does the skill do? The skill is going to give you 10% extra. So if you have 7 of those parts, that's 70% extra. From the pilot menu, you also have something called skill there. If you put 25 points on it there, you get an extra 5%. So you have 75%. So if your base score is 1,000 points, you don't have any of this on, and you just do that a certain thing, and you score 1,000 points, yeah, then that is your score. But then you see some videos from other people or whatever, and then, oh, but they score more. Yeah, that's basically because of this skilled. So you have 75% more. So your base score of 1,000 is suddenly becoming 1,750. And if you on top of that have a score breaker set, in other words, 7 of these score breaker things on one different vehicle, on one and the same vehicle, I mean, then it also doubles those points. So your 1,750 becomes 3,500. So somebody who does not have this set will score 1,000 points. Somebody has like a few skill points is gonna get some percentages more, and somebody who has a score breaker set maxed out with skill is gonna get 3,500 points for that same run. You score 1,000 points, somebody with a set scores 3,500. That's why you see these differences in the scoring all over the place. And that of course goes the same for the other disciplines. We will come back to that in a second, but that is sort of it. Let's see, what do we have on this one? Also here we have another sniffer set. What do we have on this one? The loo digger. Yeah, the loo digger set. Do we have a perfect part? Yeah, I think this one is a perfect. Let's have a look. Yep. Loo digger, gold finder and lucky. The gold finder increases the loot drop, so you're gonna get more loot. If you get like a certain event, you get 3 parts. If you have all gold finders on it, then you will get occasionally 6 or 7 parts from those things. And the lucky increases the loot quality. That means that if you would get let's say a nitro with 5%, if you have lucky on it, you're probably gonna get a nitro part. You're gonna get that same part, but it's gonna be like a nitro with 6% or 7% or 8% instead of 5, or it might even change color. If it's like if you would normally get a blue 6% or whatever, if that is available for certain things, then it might actually turn into a purple part and get that one, or purple into yellow. So it increases the loot quality, and the loot digger just doubles your loot drop. So if you normally get like 3 parts from an event, the gold finder occasionally going to give you 4 or 5. The lucky is going to increase the quality, and the loot digger is going to double whatever you get. So if you get 4 or 5 parts and you have a loot digger set on it, you're going to get 8 or 10 parts. I think we have a perfect set from the summit that we won for Hypercar, I think it was. We will have a look in that later on. Anything else that we have? No, I don't think so. So, and that is about it. So I have like these sets. I have 3 Nitro Chemist sets. One for racing, one for the bike, and one for off-road skills with the muddy on it. And then other than that, I have one set. I think I have 2 snippers as well, but other than that, I have one set of each, and that's it. You don't need, that's another one of these things that I sometimes see come back. Oh, I upgraded like 3 of my boats or whatever. Yeah. You don't need to upgrade 3 vehicles, you only need to upgrade 1 in each of the disciplines, because you can take up the parts. Now, for instance, I have the race set here on the Hurricane. I can easily take it off and put it on, for instance, the Cadillac Escalade that we need to use this week in the summit. Then yeah, you take these parts up, you put them on the Cadillac. You can only use 1 car at a time as it is, so why not just switch the parts? There's no point in grinding for 17,000 sets to put on all your vehicles. There's no point. That's sort of the general idea. Now we're gonna have a look if we find some specific things, which we probably do. Yeah, the street race sort of done. So we go to, if we ever go through all these street race cars. Then we end up with the drift. The drift, yeah. The drift is the only discipline, I think, where the set bonus doesn't matter at all. On drift, the only thing you need is to have something like this, slippery hot head. The slippery increases your multiplier, so that is something that you definitely need to max out, as well in the pilot menu. In the icon points, if you go over here, slippery, yeah, if you only have 25 points and you go do a drag event, then it is pretty simple. Slippery is the only thing you need if you go drifting. If you only have 25 points, you can reset, it says here on the bottom here, reset the page. That will reset this gameplay. You can also reset this one or this one. And so if you're going to do, let's say you only have 25 points available and you're going to do a drift, you put them on slippery. If you're going to do a skill test, you put them on skilled. If you're going to do an aerobatic plane, you're going to do magnificent. With the monster truck, you put them on gifted. So you change these parts here if you only have 24 available. Yeah, you have no other choice. I have everything maxed out here, so I don't have to worry about these icon points in the pilot menu anymore. So, and you get the multiplier 25 there, because if we look here, we have slippery 123. What does that mean? Yeah, that means that your multiplier can go to 173 maximum if you do a drift event and you don't lose the multiplier. The car itself comes, no matter what car it is, it comes with a multiplier of times 50. That is sort of the standard. On top of that, you have the points from the pilot menu, which is 25. So that makes it times 75. And then the rest comes from the part itself. So the slippery you want to put on 14, which is the maximum. You do that on all 7 of them. Then you have 98 extra, and that is 173 in total. The hot head comes into play. Yeah, it says it increases the speed multiplier by 10. The faster you drive, the higher you score. Yeah. It also means mainly that when you lose the multiplier, it goes up faster again if you have hot head on it. But on the other hand, You don't want to lose the multiplier, do you? Not in a drift event. So it's not that important. The most important one is slippery. You need to have slippery maxed out. I have it maxed out, I think. Now, the hot head normally goes to 8. But this was one from the summit, and the summit parts occasionally are boosted. And in this case that meant we get hot head 10% and slippery 10. So we had to recalibrate the slippery a little bit to get it from 10 to 14, and that's what we did with this set. And that's why the hot head is 80%. Because if you find parts out there with hot head, you can recalibrate. As you can see here, the range is 3% to 8%, and this one has 10%. So this one is boosted. It's a summit part. Normally, if you just recalibrate yourself, the maximum you can get it on is 8%. But the hot head doesn't matter that much. Luckily, this wasn't boosted because that would be like unfair to people who do not have the set from the summit. If this was like a multiplier 16, yeah, then that would mean that people that have that set one from the summit could actually score more points compared to somebody else. So that's why they gave us 10-10 probably. So they boosted the hot head but not the slippery. And then they gave us this part. Just like in the street race. Yeah, this is the only part you need. They gave it to us in a score breaker set. Totally irrelevant. Nothing to do with it. This could be like a mix of... it's the only discipline where the set bonus, the third bonus, let's call it that, has no meaning at all. This could be a sniffer, this could be a score breaker, this could be a nitrochemist. It doesn't matter at all. The drift, although it is score based, but it's not like some sort of skill test. If you don't have the score breaker, then that you're gonna get less points. It's not the case here. It's not the points are not based on in such a way that you need a score breaker. So it's like they gave us a score breaker, but we don't need it. We do need the slippery though. That is for the drag, for the drift, and then we come to the drag. Yeah, in the drag, you don't really gonna cruise around with the drag, and that means you don't really need a flame magnet. You don't really need a sniffer. If you want some extra parts, you might be able to get like a Lou Digger set if you want that. But yeah, it's not that important. I have none of this. If I check in this vehicle, as you can see, stock is completely empty here because I only have 2 sets. I have a score breaker set in case we ever are able to do a slalom or something with a drag car, which is not possible in such a way, at least not with a keyboard. Maybe some wheel drivers might be able to do it on some of the slaloms. But like in the Crew 1 we had like something called wheel settings. Even on a keyboard we could drive these drag cars through a slalom, but that's not so much the case here. The cars do not steer that great. Also not the idea, of course. It's a drag car. You just want to go from point A to point B in a straight line. So I have a score breaker set in case we ever need it, but I don't think I'm going to get it together with the keyboard anyway, but you never know. I have a score breaker set on this Challenger here. Never ever used it so far. The only thing that matters is the nitrochemist set. But not like in a race setup where you have pure and extra pump. No, in the drag car you put pure on it and frenetic. All the nitro power that you can get. You don't need extra pump because these drag events are like 8 seconds, 10 seconds, 12 seconds, bit depending on the event that you're doing. The boost will not have time to refill anyway, so there's no point in putting extra pump on here. So you just put pure and frenetic on it, and that gives you the most power possible. And if the frenetic power kicks in at the right RPM, then you get like sort of an extra kick, an extra boost, and then you can get, even in a solo run, you can get over 700 kilometers an hour. If you do it with a team and in slipstream, you will always reach the top speed of 720 kilometers an hour. And that is then the result that you see, for instance, in Summit speed traps. If you look at the leaderboard, you will see many people have 719.9, which is basically the top speed of 720. And they do it with a team, and yeah, also we have shown it already a couple of times. It is, yeah, is it? It's actually that's what it does. It's like it gives you nitro power increase, this frenetic, while you are using the boost. So you get like an extra kick when you are using the nitro boost. So some people call it a bug or a glitch. I don't really think it's a glitch. It's effectively doing what it actually says that it does, give you an extra kick. The only thing is that it doesn't always kick in. It needs to be sort of like on the right RPM, so you need to be a bit lucky to have it kick in. You might need to do 3-4 runs before you have 1 or 2 where it actually kicks in, and yeah, you will see it when it kicks in. You go 100 kilometers an hour faster. So pure frenetic nitrochemist. That's what you need, and of course also here 7 parts of them to make it active. That's more or less the only thing you need. If you need to use another vehicle, 370Z or something, or you have to use an American car, yeah, for some reason or another one of those bundles had a Ford Focus. That's why I have that thing here, otherwise it would never be in my garage. So same story, you take up the parts if you need to use one of the other cars. You take them off the Corvette, which is considered to be the best for speed traps or so. Gonna go for the Corvette Stingray C7. And if it's like a Japanese Summit or something, just put the parts on this car and you're good to go. Then which leaves us with one more discipline within the street family, and that is of course the hypercars. Now, more or less the same story as with the street race. Only here we have a few differences. Let's have a look what I have on here. This here is a loot digger set that I sort of got together myself, but we also won one from the summit. Oh no, that was for the touring car. This is the Fame Magnets set that we won from the summit. That's why I have it on here. Popular 42%, rich 21%. I have 39 here now, but that is because I have in the pilot menu 181 parts or something on the rich, which gives it 18% extra. That's why this one has 39% now. But this thing we won from the summit, and that's basically the perfect set to level up. It's popular maxed out, rich maxed out, so you get bucks and followers, and the Fame Magnet doubles those followers, so you will level up faster if you drive around with this car, more or less. But yeah, we won it from the summit, so we put it on a car. This is as it is. This is not boosted or anything. This is just the way we got it with maxed out parts, but you can sort of, if you want, recalibrate a set like this yourself. What else do we have? We have a score breaker set also here, score breaker with skilled. Also that, not that important in hypercar, because a street race bike or an Alpha GP or so will always be faster than the hypercars on the slaloms. Basically the only thing where you need the score breaker. So, but yeah, in theory you could do it with that. For racing, same story as with the street race. Just a general racing setup, meaning pure and extra pump max out with a nitro chemist set. Also here comes back again. It will come back a couple of more times in the other disciplines. Let's see, what do we have here? Here we have a sniffer set on the Agera. And over here we have a loot digger set. And then over here we have another nitro chemist set, just like on the street race bike, with muddy on it. So this thing has extra pump 15, so I probably have one extra pump on it. Yep, over here we have extra pump. The rest is pure, and all of 7 of them have muddy on it. Same reason as with the Suzuki street race bike. In some of the off-road skills, escape or so, you can use this thing instead of a raid vehicle, and this thing can go over 300 kilometers an hour towards 400 kilometers an hour. Obviously, in an escape, that kind of matters. You're gonna get further with this thing than with any rally raid vehicle, if it is possible. If you're not playing around in the forest or something, then a rally raid bike or the street race bike with muddy might be faster. But if you have room to drive or maneuver, this thing can be used. And why the Jaguar? Yeah, because the Jaguar seems to work the best with these muddy parts. Also something like the Hurricane Performante works pretty good with it. But some other vehicles are a bit too wide or too big or something like that. But it works. In theory, you can take this up and put it on the Egoista. Should also work. That's sort of the only extra set that I have on the hypercar, I think. Other than that, next to the normal 5 sets. Let's see. Yep, nothing else in the stock. I do have all the hypercars in the garage, but we had to use the Ford GT, the Lamborghini Veneno in some of the summits. Pretty simple. Take up the parts which I now have on the Egoista, and I just put them on one of the cars that we need to use. Just switch the parts as it is. And that sort of covers the street family. Then we go to off-road. More or less the same story. Whether that not, you always have to check certain things. For instance, this week, the slalom. The summit starts and everybody is there in a Ducati monster bike, because, you know, that's what people do. We use the Ducati monster bike in the slalom summits. But this time it was on the airfield cemetery, and these gates were pretty wide separated, so there was like, they were not that close to each other. So we thought maybe we'll try a car. So Cruel Old Bogus tried the Porsche, I tried this Mercedes. I think even at this moment in time I still have the world record with this Mercedes, because all the other guys didn't bother to take a car or test a car. They just had the Ducati monster bike. But this thing scores about 150, 200 points more. The same with the Porsche. It might be even possible that you can use the hypercar, for instance, with muddy, but then you need to, of course, recalibrate a score breaker set with skills and muddy on it. There are not that many people about who have that combination of parts on their car. So, but this time, I still think if you check the summit in the slalom, I still have the world record at this moment with this thing here. If not, you can use the Ducati Monster score breaker set with skilled. That matters. The rest, bit of all, I think. Some extra pump, some pure, some frenetic that I used on it as well. Racing wise, we used the buggy here in this summit. So also here, the general setup, pure extra pump with a nitro chemist set, extra pump 75, pure 66. I put it on this thing here now. Normally the Porsche is the fastest, but in this summit we had no choice. We had to use this buggy, so take out the parts of the Porsche and we put them on this thing. Always play around with these yellow sets. As you already saw in the inventory, I don't have anything other than yellow parts in my on my cars. The Nomad, I don't have any parts on it, but if I check in my inventory, there you will find the rest of the sets. Meaning I have a sniffer set, I have a loo digger set, I have a fame set, because we have the 5 sets in all of the disciplines. Grinded with those life reward events that they did with Christmas and with Easter, and also with the anniversary week. Next to that, also here I have a Nitro Chemist set which has a bender on it for the bike. If we drive around with the bike, it might help. Although I don't think I have a complete set, I just have just happen to have an extra part in here. If I check one of the other parts, yeah, there you just find the sniffer, the fame magnet, and the loo digger. But occasionally you do some PvP, you win yellow parts. If you can use one of them, you just keep them to recalibrate another set or so. So if I find some extra Nitro Chemist set, I will recalibrate it specifically for the bike in case we needed some of these. And that sort of is it for rally rate. Now we come to motocross, so the same story. You can put on it what you want as long as you have Nitro Chemist on it for racing. Yeah, here it's a bit different. I think this is, for instance, a pretty good part. Pure 8%, graceful 8%. Graceful makes you steer already while you're still hanging in the air, for instance on a jump or so. Now that is of course all relative, because as we know, although there are a bunch of ramps on a motocross track, most of the people, when it matters in PvP or in summit events or so, they just ignore those ramps. Because the checkpoints are placed, which is a general thing in this game, that the checkpoints are placed pretty badly. They will take it in consideration for future tracks they set, but I don't know if they're gonna look at it with retrospective and also change all the checkpoints in all the other tracks. I hope they do one day. We are pushing it, and we are keep telling that for a couple of weeks now that they really need to look into it and change some of these checkpoints. Motocross is a perfect example, but there are also some touring car where you can cut or reset cuts, which can easily be solved by replacing the checkpoint to another spot, and then people will not reset or cut because they have to drive to the corner if there was actually be a checkpoint. So graceful is an option here to turn around while you're hanging in the air. What is also an option here is ventilated. Ventilated if you actually take the jumps, as you're supposed to do with a motocross track. While you're hanging in the air, during the jump, your nitro will refill due to the ventilated. That is exactly what ventilated does. It refills while you're doing a jump, and it goes faster than the extra pump. So ventilated is one of those parts. It refills the nitro faster than the extra pump actually does. Because of course you can also put up a general setup here like nitro chemist with pure and extra pump, but the ventilated goes faster than the extra pump. So it is an option for nitro chemist. But I have a bit of all, as you can see. I have some extra pump, I have ventilated, I have pure, I have graceful, I have frenetic, a bit of all in combination with the nitro chemist set. Nitro chemist set you need to have the double bar of nitro. That's sort of what it gives you when that set is active. Other than that, we have the standard things. Score breaker set with skilled, a loot digger set, and a snipper set. I don't have a fave magnet because I have no intention in driving around to level up with a motocross bike, so I didn't bother to grind for that one, in motocross at least. Then we come to rallycross. Same as in most of the events. We have a nitro chemist set. We have a score breaker, although don't really need it because you will always find faster vehicles. A rally raid vehicle will be faster, and then you have those vehicles from street race and hypercar with muddy on it will always be faster than a rallycross. But if you want to do a slalom or so in a rallycross car, then you need a score breaker set with skilled on it as well. I have the score breaker set, but as you can see over here I have pure and all kind of stuff on it. I have one part where I have the skilled on it. On the others I didn't even bother to recalibrate because we never use it. Over here we have a fave magnet set. Yeah, as always, low digger set. And then over here another nitro chemist set, which is not we had used it once or twice I think in the summit, so I didn't even recalibrate or did not have enough money at the time. So it's still a mix of all kind of stuff. But of course also here you want to have pure and extra pump with nitro chemist, preferably max it out to pure 8 and extra pump 10, which I didn't even bother to do for this rallycross yet. I think we had to use it once or so, so it's not that important. Then we come to the freestyle family, where we have the monster trucks. Monster truck, yeah. Personally, I think this is the best part for a monster truck. Nitro chemist set with pure and gifted on it. You need the gifted because the monster truck events are based on scoring, and you need gifted for monster truck, which increase the scoring of that monster truck event. If you want to have do a skill test, we don't necessarily have these things in this game, but for instance in the crew 1 we had the race line skill, where we occasionally, if we didn't use a bike, then we use a monster truck to stay on that race line, especially if it was off-road. So that's where the thing comes into play. But then you don't need gifted, then you need a score breaker set with skilled. I think I also have that somewhere here on the abort or so. Yeah, here I have a score breaker set with skilled. So then we're probably gonna end up with this thing here. So then you have a score breaker set with skilled to do whatever skill test that you need to do, and I also have gifted 10% on it in case I have to do a monster truck event. So this is also a possible combination. If you don't want to grind for all these different sets in monster truck, then you can just grind for this combination: score breaker with skilled and gifted, which means you are good in case you ever have to use it in a skill test. Score breaker set and skilled will take care of that. And you are good to do monster truck events because the gifted is also on it. So that's a pretty good one as well. But yeah, we had the parts anyway by flying around, so I have a nitro chemist set. And then I think, but yeah, I have a bit of all on it, as you can see. Bulldozer and gold finder, and so I still need to do some recalibration. But for now I'm going to leave it be because with the summit that we are running now, The gold reward is a Nitro Chemist set with pure and graceful on it. Or with gifted and graceful on it, something like that. Do I have one of those? Let's have a look. I don't think I do. Yeah, this is the graceful, just like with the motocross. Also in Monster Truck, it helps you to steer while you are hanging in the air. So graceful with gifted and a Nitro Chemist set could be an option. I think that's sort of the set that you win from the current players' choice summit. We had to come up with a set, and yeah, word got to us that there are a lot of people out there who didn't bother with the Monster Truck, so they did not have these sets yet, or at least not grind for all of these sets. So we thought, okay, then it probably that will be the best reward for the player's choice summit, and that's how we ended up with this set for Monster Truck, so that you guys all have your Monster Truck upgraded as well. Other than that, also here I have a Loot Digger set and a Fey Magnet set, and over here a Sniffer set, and so on. Then we come to Demolition Derby. Now the Demolition Derby is a bit where is my set? Ah, over here. Yeah, sort of more or less a race setup that I have on here, which has a Nitro Chemist set and pure and frenetic and extra pump. You need that like in these events like the 8 or so. The 8 is not really, it's not really a ramming festival or whatever. That is more, yeah, you do a figure of 8 and you do like 4 or 5 laps on that thing. So that's more or less than a time attack. Then you can just use a normal race setup with Nitro Chemist and pure and extra pump and maybe some frenetic if you can't find the pure. That is sort of what I have here now. I have 1 or 2 parts with frenetic because I couldn't immediately find the pure. So that is more or less for the 8. If you actually gonna do ramming into the arena things, then you probably want to max it out, as I more or less have it here, with the bulldozer. So then you're looking for something like this, a bulldozer with pure or frenetic on it, with the Nitro Chemist set, or in this case I have it on the Scorebreaker set. I had, I think, Nitro Chemist with frenetic and bulldozer at first, but we had to use that in this Demolition Derby. We needed a different setup, so I recalibrated the bulldozer to pure and extra pump on my Nitro Chemist set. So I changed here now, and I have like some sort of bulldozer setup on this. The bulldozer sort of helps you to increase the collision impact. So if you hit somebody, you're gonna hit them harder if you have bulldozer on it, and you also can take a hit better. That's sort of what the bulldozer do. So you want to max that bulldozer out in these Demolition Derby things. Other than that, I have sets available, but that's about it. None of them are recalibrated. The Loot Digger set I don't even have on, but I do have it available. But I just took it off of this car because we needed to switch the parts with the Nitro Chemist on this one here. Now we come to the touring car. Let's have a look. Also here, Scorebreaker set with kilt in case we need it in a slalom or something. Although a street race bike or an Alpha GP is probably going to be faster if there is an asphalt. There are some of these slaloms are on the airport, so we will see. Hello Jens, good morning. Let's see, what else do we have here? This is the thing that also we won from the summit, I think. Yeah. This is not boosted, but this is like the perfect set that we won, which is a Loot Digger set. And it has Lucky maxed out 25.5% and Gold Finder 6%. In total, on 7 of these parts, gives Gold Finder 42, Lucky 178.5%. So yeah, if you do some touring events with these things, I can assure you, you're gonna get some decent loot, especially if you do it in ace mode. So if you use this set, you do your touring car events, you will find all the other sets, no matter what. Just do some events and grind those things, and then you will find the Nitro Chemist sets and the Score Breakers and whatever it is that you are looking for. Something that we want from the Summit. Of course, you can also recalibrate it like this, but it is the perfect set for Lou Digger. That is very sure. Then, of course, we have also here a general race setup, Nitro Chemist with extra pump and pure, obviously. Anything else that we have? Also here, a sniffer set, a flame magnet set, and that's about it. The 5 different sets available, and then although I have many more touring cars, there's no point in grinding for parts for all of these different cars. You can only drive one car, so before you drive that car, just switch your parts. For the PvP, it does not matter anyway, because in PvP everybody drives with green parts. So the system gives you green parts and everybody drives with the same. So it's not like you need to upgrade all of your vehicles here with Nitro Chemist sets to go to PvP. No, everybody's driving with green parts there. So also no point at this moment in time, unless they ever change that structure in PvP. But at this moment in time, there's no point in grinding. You just need the 5 different sets if you want to have a set in every single discipline. If not, if you're only interested in Summit or so, Nitro Chemist and Scorebreaker is the only 2 that you actually need to do a Summit. All the rest is the Flame Magnet is for leveling up. Once you are Icon 1000, that Flame Magnet doesn't matter at all. Lou Digger is to grind parts. Most of us, due to all of these live reward events and so, we have most of the parts already. So. And then the sniffer, yeah, that is to find those loot boxes. So yeah, we do have, but not so much on the cars. If you just put a sniffer set on a plane, you can fly from box to box if you really want parts. So all of these touring cars, they have no parts on it. If I check here, the Audi, for instance, just stock. If we need to use it in some sort of German summit or whatever, and they tell us, okay, you need to use the Audi RS3 LMS. Okay, then we take out the parts of the Maserati and we put them on this thing, and off we go. We have the sets ready. Alpha GP. I do have a Scorebreaker set, and it has boosted parts on it. One in the Summit. It has shifty and drag bump. Totally useless. If we have a Scorebreaker, we always need to have skilled on it to make that Scorebreaker set any good. They gave us shifty and drag bump. Don't ask me why. I kept them because they are boosted. Normally you can only recalibrate these things to 8%, and they gave us 10% parts, but never ever use that. For what do these things do is pretty simple. The shifty gives you more slipstream. Now, if you need to use shifty, then you're already in trouble. That's how I see it, because that means that you're behind. Either behind AI or behind some other racers or whatever. That's the only thing where the shifty comes into play. If you're ahead of the pack, then you need drag bump, which is sort of the opposite of slipstream. So the drag bump, okay, that makes sense if you do a summit event with normal AIs. They are behind you, so you get away from them faster due to the drag bump. But the slipstream is something totally not use, unless you're behind. That means that you're already in trouble. You want to be in front. So yeah, that set not really that super. I do have another Scorebreaker set, which I can recalibrate to skilled in case I need it. But yeah, so far we did not needed it yet. The Alpha GP might be a possibility to use on those slaloms on the airports, New York and Miami and so. But even there, the bike, a street bike, is more maneuverable, so the bike will probably be beat these Alpha GPs. But yeah, we have the set anyway. The normal setup is, as always, pure extra pump, frenetic combination somewhere, or just pure and extra pump if you want. I couldn't immediately find all the extra pumps, so I put some frenetic on it here and there. But the pure is maxed out. I have pure 8% on it all over the place. And the rest is extra pump and frenetic. And other than that, as I said, I have another Scorebreaker set next to the one that they gave us from the summit. A Lou Digger set, a Sniffer set. Also here I didn't bother to look for a Flame Magnet set, because also we only have for Alpha GP vehicles. So the jet sprint, more or less the same story. Just a normal general race setup, pure extra pump with a nitro chemist set, max it out, that's it, that's all you need. Over here we do have a score breaker set with skilled maxed out to 75%. Yeah. If they ever manage to restrict the skill tests in the summit to certain vehicles, then it might be possible that we have to use a jet sprint in the boy smashing, for instance. But at this moment in time, although this week it was pretty competitive compared to a powerboat, but in general the powerboat will always be better. Especially those big boats, yeah, if you go through those package of boys, you will hit them all. If you fly through it with a jet sprint, yeah, you will might get like half of the pack or 75% of that pack of boys that is in the water there, and then you have to come back to kill the other ones, so which you do not have time for. So yeah, how good does it look? Using a jet sprint in those boys, it's not faster. As a matter of fact, the powerboat is way slower because you do it on a slow way, but you get all the boys, so you score more. So the jet sprint is faster in those boy smashing things, but you don't get all the boys, so you score less. And it's a score-based event, so the powerboat is better. So you don't really need it, at least not now. Hopefully one day or another they get it together that they can restrict these skill tests to certain disciplines, and then it might be an interesting set to have. Other than that, I have a loot digger set. For jet sprint, that pretty much means put this loot digger set on it and grind on Everglades. You will get 7, 8 or even 9 parts at times from that event, if you're still looking for parts. What else do we have? A sniffer set, and also here we only have 4 vehicles in jet sprint, so I didn't bother to look for a fame magnet set. Powerboat, there we have everything, I think. We do have a fame magnet. We have a score breaker set maxed out with skilled. I have it on my Frauscher now because we had to use it in the boy smashing, as you said. It is slower going around on those boy smashing things, but it hits all the boys, so you score more points, and that's the only thing that matters. So definitely need this one. Over here we have again something that we won from the summit, which means it has boosted parts. They didn't boost the pure, that would be a bit of unfair to other people, because the pure maximum recalibration is 8%. Yeah, if they would give us 10% boosted parts here, that would give an advantage compared to other players. So they kept it at 8%, but they did boost the reach that is on it. Instead of 3%, which is the maximum normally, they gave us 4.5%. And that of course on all 7 parts. So this is a set again that we won from the summit. Pretty good sets that you win there sometimes, although some people don't even realize that, and that some of these things are boosted. And they are always complaining on the forums and such, but you might want to have a look on those sets. Like for instance, the player's choice, that monster truck set is pretty much a pretty perfect set that you can use for your monster truck, and then you don't need to grind for it. You just put in the effort to get a gold medal at least. What do we have here? The normal Nitro Chemist set, meaning extra pump and pure. That's the set that we recalibrated. The other set with the bugs on it, that was something that we won from the summit. Anything else that we have? Yeah, also here we have a sniffers and a loot digger set available in the boats. Then we come hovercraft, same story. We have a score breaker with skilled on it, but not something you need, because if you go onto the water, the jet sprint or the powerboat will always be faster. If you go to the land, which of course this is some sort of hybrid vehicle, so you can use it both on land as on the water. But if you go to land, yeah, you're gonna have rally raid vehicles, hypercars, touring cars or whatever, always going to be faster than this thing. So completely useless set basically, that score breaker on the hovercraft, until maybe one day when they actually restrict the skill test and you actually have to use a hovercraft on one of those things, then you need a set. That's why we have it. Also here, loot digger set available. What else do we have? We have a Fey magnet set, and we also have a snipper set. 5 different vehicles, so then I have the 5 different sets, and of course also here the normal setup. Although Nitrochemist with pure and extra pump, which is the normal setup, that's sort of what we were looking for here. Couldn't immediately find it. But yeah, due to the drifting around, you do get some refill from the pilot menu from Drifty. Drifty is a pretty important one. The perfect setup for this hovercraft is Nitrochemist with pure or frenetic, and the other affix needs to be Drifty. There's only a slight problem with that, is that due to a patch at some point or another, we cannot get the Drifty anymore for the hovercraft. But it's a bit unfair business, because in the beginning of the game you could get it, and there are some people out there who do have it. They do have a Nitrochemist set with pure or frenetic on it, and next to that the Drifty. And the Drifty refills way faster than the extra pump, sort of like the ventilator does on the motocross. And yeah, the problem here is that if they have the Drifty on it, they are basically driving around with a full boost bar the whole time. Because yeah, this thing, it's the only thing that it does is drift around over the water and over the land. So yeah, it's constantly a full bar of boost. If you don't have it, then you need to have extra pump or so. I only have 1 or 2 extra pumps on here, and the rest I did a combination sort of like in the drag. Nitrochemist with pure maxed out and frenetic maxed out, to get like extra boost from coming out of the corners. That seemed to me better than actually put extra pump on it, which refills pretty slowly. So you can better do like some short boosting, and then if you do some short boosting, then the frenetic is especially in these hovercraft events, because there are a lot of turns, it is more important than the pure. Because everybody says pure, but pure just gives you more extra power, but the frenetic gives you more power when you're actually using the boost. So the frenetic in some of the tracks, especially if it has many corners, frenetic is better than pure. But in this case I just combined it so that I have like lots of power when it matters coming out of the corner. So you can do like short nitro boosts, and then you can sort of decrease your time a little bit, but not as fast as the guys with Drifty. But yeah, as long as they do not bring that Drifty part back, we cannot recalibrate it. We can recalibrate all we want, we lose millions because the Drifty will never show up. So the hovercraft is a bit of a special thing. Aerobatic, another one of those things. Score breaker set with skilled on it. Yeah, sure, I have it maxed out on 75%. It's completely useless, because they cannot restrict at this moment in time the skill tests to certain disciplines. We never ever use this thing, because an aerobatic plane is slower than an air race plane. So everybody is using score breaker sets on the air race plane and uses that plane. All of these planes are available both in aerobatics as in air race. At least most of them are. The Spitfire aerobatic, I think it is, or the Spitfire air race, I'm not sure. One of those two is part of the 3 exclusive season pass vehicles. But in general, the plane, like in this case, we have the Harman Rocket HR3 aerobatic, but that same plane is also available in air race. But yeah, you never know if you ever use it. For the aerobatic events itself, when it comes down to doing rolls and loopings and that kind of stuff, you need a Nitrochemist set, obviously. If I know where I have put it. Oh, over here apparently. What matters here is, yeah, this is probably one of the better parts. Nitrochemist set with pure 8% and magnificent 10%. The magnificent, just like the skilled in combination with Scorebreaker, and just like the gifted on a monster truck, the magnificent gives extra scoring in these aerobatic events. We're not talking about a skill test. When you have to do a skill test, then it's definitely Scorebreaker with skilled on it. But just to do the aerobatic events, Nitrochemist with pure and magnificent pretty much will do it. Or maybe even frenetic and magnificent, as long as you have the magnificent. I have 75.4% on it. I think you get 10% from the pilot menu, so magnificent can go to 80% in total. but apparently I don't have all of them recalibrated yet. Let's have a look. Oh, this one is 9.4 instead of 10. And I'll probably have a few more of those things. Let's quickly have a look. Yeah. Oh, over here we have one of 8. See if we can get to 10. Extreme mode, yeah, is also something you can use. In case you use that extreme button, 8.3, going up a little bit. Mainly going down a little bit. That's what it usually does. It's a wonderful system, this recalibration. But yeah, I guess it's a bit double. Preferably, personally, I would like to see a tuner shop where you can just go and buy the perfect set. Then of course you also need to grind for money, but yeah, you can grind money by playing some PvP or so, have some fun. But this recalibration trash is costing you $1 million or $2 million sometimes to recalibrate one vehicle, and we have 16 disciplines where you want to recalibrate different sets. Yeah, you need 100, 200 million, I think, to recalibrate all of them. Also here we have a Loot Digger set. And then we come to the air race plane, sort of similar story. We have a fame set, we have all kind of sets. Also here, score breaker with skill 75%, and this is the plane that we use in aerobatics play, in aerobatic system. When there is a skill test, you need to use we need to do some aerobatics or even some low altitude. This plane is faster than the aerobatic version of it, so we use air race planes. And as long as you do not restrict the skill test, this is the way to go. If they one day or another do restrict the skill test, then of course you need sets in all of the disciplines. Some Loot Diggers over here as well. And then we have the Nitro Chemist set. At first I had, let's see if I can find someone here. There are a few combinations that you can do. You can, for instance, do like an extreme mode with a perfectionist, or a gateway with a perfectionist. I think I have that somewhere. Let's have a look. Over here somewhere, I think. Yeah. If you do like, yeah, this is a famous set now, but it doesn't matter. If you have a Nitro Chemist set with gateway and perfectionist, that's sort of in the beginning we thought like, oh yeah, that's going to be the best part for a race. So we had one recalibrated completely like that. The perfectionist increases the gate angle, so you get a wider range to go through that circle. You get it easier, let's put it that way. And if you have a perfect gate, then the gateway refills your nitro. So it's sort of like the ventilated in motocross and the drifty in hovercraft. This gateway sort of, every time you fly through that circle perfectly, you get the gateway refills your nitro. So gateway is sort of your nitro refill for the plane, let's put it that way. But yeah, looking back, that gateway, okay, we definitely need that. But that perfectionist, yeah, once you know the tracks a little bit, everybody can go fly through the circles and or can get through the inner circle. So that perfectionist is a bit not needed. So what we have done now, we recalibrated the set to Nitro Chemist, Gateway, and Pure, and we maxed that one out, and that gives us Gateway 35.5%, Pure 66%. Maybe also frenetic might work, but you definitely need the gateway, and you max it out to 4%. And then yeah, you get this set. We have it on the Spitfire now. Spitfire is one of the planes that can get the highest speed, so that is sort of the set that we use on that plane. You can also use, for the aerobatics for instance, you can use Tricky as well to perform figures. Also something that works on the monster truck for that matter. All sort of possibilities. Then you have this thing, yeah. The Pilatus PC21 is something that comes with the deluxe edition. If you have the gold edition, you also have this plane, because the deluxe edition was also included in the gold edition, obviously. And then this plane was for free, it came with it, but yeah, it's definitely by far the worst plane in the game. So if you have the deluxe edition and you don't, one of the first things you need to do is buy a plane, because this thing, although you will have it, sort of comes with the game if you buy it, because you get it with the deluxe edition, but don't use this thing. If you use this thing, you're going to get in trouble. for scoring and such. So you can use, especially if you're not familiar with planes, I would suggest you buy something small. Either this slick aircraft is a pretty good one. That's the first thing that I bought, and I did all the tricks there with. And then this Harmon is also a pretty good one. It's what most people use. It's a small plane. It's maneuverable, so for low altitude and for all kind of skill tests and such, this is probably one of the better planes. You can of course, like this P-51 Mustang, the Spitfire, that's all good. If you're pretty okay with planes, then you can use all of these planes. But these are pretty big, wide planes, not so maneuverable. If you're not familiar with flying around with these planes, or you're not good with it yet as a new player, I would suggest go for something small. Buy a Harmon, buy a Slick, or even this Zivco Edge, which is sort of the thing that you get, I think, if you get introduced into the what is it? I think into the freestyle headquarters. If you get introduced there, then you get that plane, I believe. And then in the pro racing, you get a boat or something. And then this extra is a season pass vehicle that they one point or another brought during those 11 months when we get all kind of vehicles. If you complete the off-road, if you complete the freestyle family, then you get this thing. This was the first hovercraft that we had, the Proto XT3, sort of to get familiar with hovercrafts, but we could not upgrade that. But then they have brought Gator Rush, and then we could upgrade it, and so now the performance is available, and we can put some parts on it to the maximum level of 80 in this case. Sort of the same goes for the helicopter. The helicopter, if you complete the off-road family, you get this helicopter. But the performance is grayed out at this moment in time, but you never know. Maybe one day or another, this helicopter actually turn into a discipline, and there might be some more helicopters showing up, and then we might be able to put some performance parts on it. We will see over time what they do with it. That sort of covers it, I think. Sort of going over, sort of answering at the same time a lot of comments that I got recently, which made me think that there were new players about who want to figure it all out. Also on other TPC members, their channels, I saw the sort of same comments coming back. Sort of more or less explaining the Affix and go over it. So the main thing is get your icon points straight and sow this. Gangster, what about the money grind? Money grind doesn't matter that much. In such a way, people say, yeah, but you have more money from this, more money from that. Not really. If I do money grind, then it's pretty simple. You put like, if it's just about the money, if you just want money, you can do whatever you want. But if I really need money, I just do street racing, hypercar, New York. Pretty simple. I drive from New York to San Francisco. It's about 30-minute race. You put all the points that you have on the rich. You put parts on your car which have completely maxed out rich. So all your parts need to be pointed towards the rich affix, towards getting more bucks. If you don't like doing long races, then you just go to something like Latrell part number 1, part number 2. Lateral part number 2 is something that people have used a lot for grinding, but that was a bit unfair to those. So what they've done is over time, because at first you got more money from this. I think it was sort of similar as lateral parts number 1, or at least a little bit more. But now they have devaluated it, and now you sort of get like a standard. You get 15,700 at least in normal mode. You can of course change the difficulty to ace mode, and then you get 22,000 from it. But at first, in the beginning of the game, lateral part number 1 and 2, I think they were paid equally. But they put it a bit lower now, because people were so much grinding lateral part number 2, and that didn't balance it out. Did I just start that thing? Yeah, it didn't balance it out anymore. But in general, if you just let's say yeah, powerboat Uberdam, people are grinding a lot of there. That is a bit of the problem that I have with the game itself, is the PvP system. That needs to be looked into urgently, because it's one big mess. The only people that you find there are the die-hard PvP players, and there are many reasons why that is like that. One of them is bad checkpoint placement, but another one is also the variety. There is basically no variety in PvP. So PvP is a good way to grind money as well, because you get like 15,000, 17,000, 18,000, depending a bit where you finish. But if you play an hour of PvP, or you do an hour of Uberdam, or you do 2 times New York, San Francisco and Hypercar, money-wise you're more or less going to get the same. It's going to give you 400, 500,000 bucks if you don't have any, let's say, parts on it. If you have extra points on Rich and you have parts with Rich on it, you're going to get more money. But if you just play for an hour, you can do whatever you want. It more or less is going to balance out. The only problem that you have, of course, is, for instance, if you do something like New York and you want to combine it a little bit, you want to get some money and you want to get some parts. Yeah, the problem with New York is it's only for hypercars. The problem with the Uberdam is it's only for powerboat. So then you would say, okay, let's go to PvP and have some variation, and that's where the problem with the PvP comes into play. You only have that stupid street race lobby, which is only street race and hypercar. All the rest is not available. The other disciplines are occasionally available in those other playlists, but then they put the collisions on, which turns it into one big ramming festival. That is something they definitely need to change. I know the so-called pro drivers want the collisions on because, and that's all fine. I can follow their reasoning behind it. That's all fine. If you have people in there who all can drive a car and who don't intentionally ram each other, then it's pretty good that they have the collisions on. Then you can have some proper racing. But in this game, where the majority are kids and people that can't drive, or because they have just not good drivers, or they don't have a good tuning for their cars go all over the place, it just does not work at all. So in this game, I think it is advisable to just put the collisions off in all of these stupid races. And then you have another thing going, because then people can go to the other playlist and they can do all of the different disciplines which are in those playlists. But people are not playing it at this moment because it has collisions on. So then the only thing that they can do is go to the other playlist, and that only has street race and hypercar. We need a playlist which has all 16 different disciplines, so that people can grind for all, or at least change these playlists every day, that if you play every day some PvP, that you can upgrade all of your vehicles and not only street race and hypercar. And then they say, street race is the most popular. Yeah, of course it is. If you check in your stats, it all makes sense. If you follow their logic, yeah, then they have. If you check your chats, yeah, here, look at this. Street racing 44%. For me, it's not even the most popular one, but in my stats it says 44%, which is of course pretty logic. If you look into the activities, you go into the street racing, you go through that list here. You have 40, 50 meanwhile street races. If you go to another family, to pro racing, you go to touring car, you have 10 or 11 touring car tracks. 10 or 11 touring car tracks compared to 40 street races. Yeah, obviously people are doing more street races because they do it 4 times, you have 4 times as much track. So obviously your percentage is going to be higher. The same in PvP. You have a PvP lobby playlist which only has street race and hypercar. So obviously the stats are going to show that street race is the most popular. It's not the most popular, it's just what people do the most because they are forced to do it the most, as well in PvP as in the campaign. If they just go through the campaign, they have to do 40 street races and they only have to do 10 touring car races to complete the family and the disciplines and put a green check on all of these different events. It's kind of logic that the street race is giving you like 2 or 3 times higher percentage in the stats. And then they go by the stats to think like, oh, hypercar is the most popular or street race is the most popular. No, of course not. More and more people are complaining on the forums because they want to see more tracks. Those touring car, very interesting touring car tracks, but why not just take these cars out? They are equally as fast as this Hurricane, for instance. Just take them out. We can also do touring car races on the open world. You have a huge map. You can use all that. There's no problem anywhere. No matter where on this map, you can drive a touring car on all over the place. Even on some of the track parts, you can even use an Alpha GP. So also for Alpha GP, it not necessarily needs to be a problem. Now, I'm not calling for this, but on the other hand, you have Little Eagle. It's totally not used. I don't want to use it. Completely agree with the fact that they are not using it, because it was a mess in the PvP in Crew 1. It was chosen by kids doing like 5 or 6 laps. Don't forget to steer left, because it's a stupid circle. But there are some other tracks available. Laguna Seca, not used in any way. There's not even a skill test here now at the moment, so Laguna Seca is a track that they can use for touring car for sure. Little Eagle, yeah, maybe put it in campaign for those who want to do it. I don't necessarily want to see this thing show up in PvP, definitely not, but in general we just need more tracks, and the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to give us a track creator ourselves. Pretty simple. If we have a track creator available, we can create the tracks ourselves. We can fast forward them to a certain, or filter a few of those good tracks, the most popular tracks, with some sort of proper sharing device, not like in the Crew 1 with codes and so, because that totally did not work. But if you have some proper sharing device, people can put their tracks on the forums or on the YouTube channel or whatever, and the most popular tracks can be used for the summit, which also immediately gives 1001 new tracks for the summit as well. All kind of tracks that nobody knows, so it will be a surprise for everybody. So that's definitely something, one point or another, we're gonna have to get somehow into the game, track creator. It's not gonna be for tomorrow, obviously, because it's not as simple than taking the free drive challenge from the Crew 1 and just put it in this game. It doesn't work. They have to restart from scratch to make something like that. So we can only hope that they are working on something like that at this moment in time. Well, not specifically at this moment in time, because it's August, and that means that they are on holidays. There is some low activity in August, but not much happening in general in the offices till the end of August, beginning of September, when everybody is back from holidays and ready to go for another year. And what are we gonna get? Yeah, we will see. Whatever they come up with. There is all kind of stuff planned for the very future, whenever that is. Probably somewhere next year, I'm assuming, but we will see. And we will see what it is. At this moment in time, not much info is out, although there are some people guessing, or they got some rumors and then they're making videos of that out there. Don't believe them. Nothing official is out there, so whoever is coming up with all kind of shit that they're telling, forget about it. They are working on something, that is for sure, but whenever that is going to be ready, that is not for sure. So there's a good chance it's going to be somewhere next year. We will see what they bring. But for new players, we had to go over this because more and more questions. I think there were some Steam sales, also some PlayStation 4 store sales has been there. Also in PvP, if you go to PvP, you see it happening. Rookie, popular, star, low icons. So there are quite a lot of new players in the game. The Affix, next to the pro settings, probably the two most important things in this game. Green parts, blue parts, purple parts, that's all fine. But in the end, you need yellow parts. Especially if you want to get involved into summits. Do you only need yellow parts, you need complete sets, like here, the Nitro Chemist. Max it out with pure and extra pump, for instance, for racing, or score breaker and skilled for skill tests. That will be it for this video. A long stream/video, but yeah, I think hopefully it all makes it clear now. I will see you guys in the next one, and bye for now.